Welcome back to the Y.E.S. Fitness Longevity Podcast, where we give you insight on how to get fit, feel younger, and live better. Thanks for coming on board with us this afternoon, in this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. First, I'd like to point out that you can see that we're in a little different setting today. We are in one of our coaching rooms. So if there is some noise or feedback or something like that, I apologize for that. There are some things going on around me here, and I just want to let you know I apologize up front if you get a little noise that you don't normally get. One thing for housekeeping, we have some holidays coming up. We got Passover and Easter. Our schedule does not change. We're going to run our normal classes. We're going to run our normal semi-private session. Nothing changes in our hours for the holidays, so just so that you know, if there was any question with that. So we're going to dive right into today. We're going to dive back into DVRT. A few weeks ago, we had a DVRT master instructor, Danny Twoguns, come on board. And DVRT is dynamic variable resistance training. It has a set of principles that I wanted Danny to introduce to you, to the audience, and why we use these systems and principles to get amazing results for our clients. Anyone who wants to look better, want to lose some fat, they want to feel better, they want to move better, they want to perform better. Anything in that gamut of exercise goals, DVRT is one of the best systems to use to make that happen. So I wanted Danny to introduce the principle to us because he is a master instructor. He has helped me tremendously with my learning of the systems. And one of the things that Danny pointed out, one of the keys to the DVRT system is the ability to change the intensity of the exercise, whether to regress it, make it a little bit easier, or progress it, make it harder, without just changing the load, meaning without making the implement heavier. So for example, if you're doing a squat, instead of holding 25 pounds, you hold 35 pounds to make it harder. The beauty of the DVRT system is that we can do that. We can progress and regress the intensity of exercises without changing load. So what's the big deal? Why not just change load? Well, for the first thing is to understand, if we're just changing the load, we're assuming that you can perform the exercise correctly. For example, we know that you can perform the squat correctly. Well, maybe you can't perform the squat correctly. Maybe you need some assistance to be able to perform that squat. And two, what happens is, how do you make the exercise harder when you can't hold any more weight? So let's say, example, that squat again. If you're doing a squat and you just reach the limit where you just cannot load any more weight because you can no longer perform the exercise, how do you make that exercise better? Because you just can't hold any more exercise. So the DVRT system allows us to do that. And it allows us to make some very specific changes in not just load, but in how the load is affecting the body, in what plane of movement, by the choices that we make in the exercise selection. So we're diving deep in here a little bit nerdy about coaching and training, but I thought it was just important to bring this out as to why we do the things that we do that allow our clients to get the amazing results that they get at an ages that typically people don't think they're going to be able to get those kind of results, that they're going to be able to move better, that they're going to be able to perform better, that they're going to be able to lose the fat that they want to lose, or just feel better. So that's why we use a DVRT system. And so what I thought I would do was, since we did get a little nerdy in talking about the system, that I would show you some examples of how we use the DVRT principles to change, to progress or regress an exercise without ever really changing the load in the movements. Now, one of the system's main keys is you can use all different kinds of implements, but one of the best implements to use is the ultimate sandbag. And people come into my facility and say, what are those for? What are those sandbags for? And things like that. So the DVRT system utilizes the sandbag, the ultimate sandbag, many times in its progressions and regressions. So that's what I'm going to use today. I'm going to use the ultimate sandbag. Now, there'll be one example where I do increase the load, and I'll explain to you why when I get to that. but we're going to utilize the squat, which is a very basic movement pattern. We need to be able to squat to get up and down out of our chair, in and out of our car, pick things up off the ground, do things out in the yard. So we want to be sure that we can squat correctly, and how do we progress that squat without increasing the load. The first thing we're going to use is what we call the press out squat. We talked about the press out squat with Danny a little bit. It actually assists the squat. It makes the squat easier than if you were doing a body weight squat. Now, sometimes people use a TRX, a suspension training system, to help assist the squat. That's a whole lot of assistance, and many times in my 28 years of coaching, I've seen people go to being able to do a perfect squat with the TRX, but then not being able to do a body weight squat because they haven't developed enough strength. They haven't developed the stability and mobility because the TRX assisted them too much. So we're going to use this 10-pound core sandbag, ultimate sandbag, to actually help us assist us in the squat to perform it better and be able to progress it along. So I'm going to grab this bag. I'm going to grab it like I have claws, the claws of a crab, okay? And what that does is it begins to engage the whole upper body when I grab the bag. That's one reason why we use a sandbag other than a kettlebell or a weight, because you can't grab it. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it and try to pull it apart. And when I pull it apart, you're going to see a couple times when I demonstrate today that it's going to turn my back on. So pardon my back, but watch what happens to my back when I take the bag and I pull it apart. You'll notice my shoulder blades come together. So my shoulders come down, my shoulder blades come together. And what that does is that will engage the muscles, connect the muscles of the fascia that goes down across the back. My upper back through the core into the other side of the glute and the outside of that leg. So it engages everything, so the body is going to move together and function together like it's supposed to. So here I go, I got my back. My feet are about shoulder width apart. I'm going to screw my feet into the ground. So I'm going to grab that ground, screw my feet into the ground, and think about pushing my knees out or taping my knees to the wall. That way we're engaging with the ground. Everything's turned out from the lower body, pull that bag apart in the upper body. I will press the bag out, pause, and then come on back up. So as I press this bag out, it's actually counterbalancing my backside and it's making it easier. So here I am in my squat again. I pull that bag apart to engage the posterior chain of my body, press out, pause, and come on back up. Now I've seen people be terrible squatters, and we perform a press out squat, cleans everything up, especially when it's done correctly, when we get that engaging of the upper body, when we engage the ground with our feet. It helps stabilize what needs to be stabilized. It helps turn the muscles on that needs to be turned on. It helps with our mobility. It counterbalances the weight. So that is a step down, a regression from a body weight squat. Now this is the one instance where I am going to change the weight of the bag for demonstration reasons. But we may take a client straight through their full workout. Might start with a 10-pound bag, progress it to a 15-pound bag if they need to, and then use that bag for all the different variables and all the different squats that I'm going to show you today. But for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use a heavier bag. So this is a one time that I'm going to increase the load of the bag. So after our press out squat, we're going to go to what we call a USB, an ultimate sandbag, bear hug squat. So we're going to take, I'm going to take a 40-pound bag. And I'm going to put it in what we call a bucket position. So I'm going to go down, nice flat back. I'm going to get this bag up here. I'm going to grab the bag on each side, like this. I'm hugging this bag, okay? And just like with the press out squat, I'm going to pull this bag apart. And again, you'll notice that my shoulder blades come together. My back tightens up. that will again engage this whole posterior chain to work together. So I have the bag, I'm pulling this bag apart, and now I'm going to squat. Down, pulling that bag apart, screwing my feet into the ground, tape those knees to the wall. So we've progressed. Now I'm going to show you that because I'm using a larger bag. It will be difficult for me to use a small bag. It's not really very much resistance for me. And it's hard for me to demonstrate that bear hug position, but I could. Client starts off with the press out squat. Next we go to the bear hug squat. So the next level squat we're going to go to is what we call the USB front loaded squat. It's a couple different front load positions. We're just going to use the full rack one. So I'm going to come up to my sandbag. Nice position. Turn those thumbs out. Put this in the front load position. It's the same 40-pound bag. It's a little bit harder. Got this loaded up in front of the body here. Just like with the other bags, I'm going to push my chest into that bag, pull my arms back. So you can see my back comes together. That engages that back, posterior chain. So the full body is working. We're coming down, pausing, coming back up. Down, come back up, and relax. So the principle that we've used so far, the DVRT principle, is where we put the load is where we're changing. We change it to a press out where we're getting some assistance. We put a front load here. We put the front load here. Another way to change the intensity of the exercise is to change our stance. So I'm going to do this front loaded squat again, but instead of having a parallel stance with my feet, I'm going to stagger stance or go to a little bit of a sprinter stance, and I'm going to slide my right toe back in line with my left heel. That is going to change the emphasis of which leg works, thus making it more challenging. So this is a USB staggered stance, front loaded squat. Again, thumbs turned out, load the bag, stagger that right foot. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm going to stagger my right foot back just a little bit. It's in line with my toe. Push your chest into the bag, and we're going to squat. And come on back up. Just touch that wall there a little bit. So you squat. Come on back up. So we change the position of the bag. We change the foot position. We can not only stagger our stance, but we can stagger the bag position. So I'm going to put the bag off to one stag. So what this exercise is now, USB, offset, loaded, staggered stance, front squat. So I'm going to grab, instead of grabbing the two parallel handles right here, I'm going to come to the outside of the bag, and I'm going to curl it in and grab part of the bag just like that. And I'm going to have my left hand on this handle here. We're going to clean it up. And instead of being in that front-loaded position, we're going to load it right onto our fist. And most of the weight is now on my left hand. So we can go back to our even stance. Well, I think it said staggered stance, right? So you can do this front-loaded with a front squat here, which is more challenging than the front-load squat, where it's just in that front-load position. Or we can stagger our stance, which will make it more challenging. We can stagger the other stance side, which makes it more challenging. So you can hear I'm a little bit out of breath. You can hear me grunting a little bit. You didn't hear me grunt in that front load bag when I was just like this, right? Didn't grunt at all. Now I've changed the hand position and the bag position. It made the exercise more challenging. From there, we're going to again change the position of the bag. And we're going to do a shoulder-loaded bag. Bag's going to be up on my shoulder. I'm going to use the implement of a kettlebell here. I've been using a 40-pound bag, so the shoulder squat is even more challenging because it's off to one side. So now we have to stabilize not only in what we call the sagittal plane, it's going to be in the frontal plane, almost like a side plank, because this weight's going to be on one side. So I'm going to offset that weight just a little bit with the kettlebell rack position here. So first I'm going to load the bag on my left shoulder. So you can see I got to stay up nice and tall. I don't want to lean to the side. I'm going to grab this kettlebell and we'll put it up here in the rack position. Now you might say, yeah, you got more weight on you because the load is heavier, but it's even. It's an even load, like when we had the bag out front, one side, the other side. This bag is 30 pounds. This kettlebell is 20 pounds. So it is a little bit heavier than that 40-pound bag I was using, but it's easier than just a single bag on one side because I don't have to stabilize from side to side quite as much. So from here, we can do our squat. We can stagger stance this, which will make it more challenging. And then the most challenging will be we put down this kettlebell. I'm going to go back to the 40-pound bag. Load it up on the shoulder. Get it right up there. Even stance. Nice squat. Stagger stance. Stagger stance offset from where the bag is. Or we can stagger stance on the same side as the bag. So then we utilize some principles in DVR training systems to make the exercises either progress easier or progress harder without really changing the load, without making it harder, just by changing either the bag position from the assisted squat with the press out squat to a front load, to an offset front load, to on the shoulder. We also changed how hard the exercise is, progressed it by not just changing the hand position, but by changing our foot position. And we didn't even get into any kind of movement type stepping or anything like that. I just showed you, let's see, let me think about this now. We had the press out squat, front loaded squat, stagger stance, front loaded squat, offset bag squat, offset one leg, offset the other leg. Then we went to the shoulder with the kettlebell, offset leg, offset the other leg, and then we went without the kettlebell, offset leg, the other leg. That's 12 exercises. That's 12 progressions or regressions of a simple squat without changing load. And that's the beauty of the DVRT system. That's what makes it so nice. That is what helps us get our clients such amazing results. How we help them move better, how we help them be able to perform better, whether it's going up and down stairs, whether they're out playing basketball with their kids, playing tennis, grocery shop, whatever it is. And help them lose fat, because if the body's moving correctly, you're going to get better results. And one of the keys is it reduces the risk for injury, because we're getting the body to move correctly. We're getting it to stabilize correctly. We're getting it to be mobile the way it should be mobile. It cleans things up without the person even having to think about, oh, I gotta engage my back. I gotta engage my backside. I gotta engage my core. It makes it happen automatically. We don't need to think about it. That's the beauty of the DVRT system and the Ultimate Sandbag, that marriage that comes together. And there are other tools and implements that we use in the system, like for instance, the kettlebell, but those are the basics. So that's what I have for you today. We utilize that same type of thought process and progressions and regressions in all our coaching and all our training. It's what helps our clients to live better and to move better. So I had it wrong last week, but I think I have it right this week. Next week, we're going to have our superstar Amy Brennan on to talk about her experiences here at Y.E.S Fitness and how we've been able to help her achieve some of her goals and how we've been able to inspire her and make changes to achieve other goals in her life. So look for us next Tuesday at 3:30 with more insight on how to get fit, feel younger, and live better. Thanks for watching.